Friends, family, fans of Back 9 Bets, episode 60. Long John. I guess you know who we're picking outright, but we'll talk more about him later. Big old Long John. It's episode 60. It's the PGA goddamn championship. And in honor of the Cams, I got Cam's Penguin shirt on. And your boy is pretty clean shaven. And I'm wearing glasses. So I look like I'm kind of modeling. And I'm not entirely sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I have been grinding my ass off this week, so I have to have the glasses on because I'm struggling to see my screen. Because I've been behind the computer for more than I care to admit. For you, for the fans, for the friends, for the family. This is what I give. I'm selling my eyesight for y'all. But anyway, any happies. Anyway, happy PGA Championship week. It is the second major of the year, and I am thrilled to start talking about some golf with y'all. Let's do this. I think it's going to be a fun one. We're going to dive into what is actually going on here. We're going to insert a column so I can insert my face because that's what I like to do on this show, and it's all clean shaven. So let's take a peek. It is the PGA Championship. We are playing at Oak Hill in Rochester, upstate New York. Going to be balls cold. It's going to be blah, 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 thick rough, the whole shebang. I took a peek at all the holes, and I just minus 300 yards from the average proximities just to get an idea of where we can expect the different proximity ranges to come from. 290, 280, 310. Everyone's going to be hitting at a different yardage. But to get a general gist, there's going to be a lot of shots from 150 to 250. So we've got 4 buckets there, 4 holes that have 150 to 175, 3 from 175 to 200. You could probably flip-flop a few. There's 1 or 2 that's 202 versus 197. You never know how that goes. So it's kind of interesting. You'll see what we can get up to. But at the end of the day, a lot of long irons. It sounds like the rough is going to be ridiculously high, which means 2 things. Let's dive into it. This course is brand new, so there is 0 course history to really go off of, as it also has been redesigned. So anything from the past can get blasted. It ain't going to be beneficial to know. We're going to take a peek at what the model set up as, though. 35% total approach, as always, including in the stats this week. And I've changed some things around. I am now rolling, friends, with some serious 2023 stats. We've ditched 2022. There's been too many guys doing too many things too well this year that I've been naive and neglectful to. So we are not dealing with last year. It's typically what we've been up to. I'm changing things up. It's been a rough year. We got to figure it out. And I'm changing it up. I don't know if that's going to work or if it's not. We're going to see. But anyway, for our total weighting, we've got 75% stats, which we will be talking about here shortly, 10% recent form over the last 24 rounds, and 15% strokes gained at majors. And not all majors. The US Open and the PGA Championships. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we want those strokes gained because those are the 2 types of courses that we're going to find out how these guys play at. We've got approach from the last 24 rounds for our 75% of stats. We're going to have 5% approach from last 24 rounds. We're going to divvy it up from these proximity buckets where we got green regulation rates from 150 to 2, all the shebang. You can look at the screen. All you got to know is we've got 50 to 100, 11%, 17% from 100 to 150, 150 to 200 is 33%, and then we got like a third of the shots from 200 plus. So we got a lot of that going in the model this week. Bent grass putting from 5 to 15 feet, 5%, and then just general bent putting, 5%. We want to make sure that on bent grass greens, these guys can get the ball in the hole. We'll talk a little bit about the course here shortly because around the green, we've got 8%, and then there's a lot of freaking bunkers for 7% bunker sand proximity. 10% bogey avoidance, 10% par 5 scoring. There's only 2 par 5s on this course, but it's a long course. And when I was doing the Cam Young investigation, I found out that off the tee and around the green are very important for par 5 scoring. And I think even though there aren't that many on this course, it's still applicable stats to kind of derive a player profile for a long golf course that has long par fours, which could essentially be par fives on easier golf courses. So that's what's cooking there. And then off the tee, we got a total of 20%, 8% off the tee, 4% accuracy, and then 8% distance. So we need a bit of accuracy and you need a bit of distance. And we'll talk about some guys that get into the model here shortly, because in DFS, we're going to have to talk about these guys. But in the actual real world, when you are just looking to thrive on this golf course, I think distance is going to be paramount. I think you need to be relatively accurate, but going all the way down the fairways in that thick rough, it's much better than hitting a 5-iron out of thick rough versus a 8-iron. So there's a lot to be gained from that respect. But in DFS, there's going to be some gems, that low-owned guys that we can rely on hyper accuracy in this regard and use them to know that they're going to be hitting a lot of fairways. And then they can hit their ball onto these greens so much easier because they're not in the thick rough. They may be 25 yards behind, but they've got full control of their golf ball. And you'll see once we start talking about these guys, some of them are really good with their long irons, especially from the fairway. So we'll see what's cooking. As always, this show is brought to you by rotoballer.com. Go to rotoballer.com, use code Maniac for 10% off any premium items you would like to get your hands on. We got 3 different types of tiers packages. You can get it for this week only if you want. You can get it for the full annual year. My package is super affordable. It's $99 for the whole year. 10% off gets you a nice little $90 package for the full year. You get all my Showdown models. You get my Rainmaker models. The articles are free, but the models, I'm kind of trying to sell a product here. You know, I am the Model Maniac after all. If you want to get Spencer's model, that's got everything like my stuff, but his is available to you in downloadable version. Grab that, get the full platinum package, $180 for the year. Use code Maniac, get 10% off. Spencer's been crushing it on the betting front. Joe Nicely writes goddamn novels every single time. He puts out great DFS content at the same time as just JK rolling that crap. So there's a lot to like at the Rotoballer site. We've got lineup optimizers, all of that. So the Discord's been popping, lots of things to like. Tune into Rotoballer, go grab yourselves 10% discount using code Maniac. So that's what's going on there. Long John, Ram. I am flipping words back to front here today, friends. And as you can see, this model's kind of gone rogue on me. John Rahm is not number 1 in the model. We've got somebody else that's number 1, but he sits number 2 in the model. He's $11,400, and he's roughly the same percent ownership as Scotty Scheffler. So these two are rather important golfers to discuss. John Rahm also is 8-1 to win this tournament, and we fancy our chances with good old Johnny. Long John. Why do we call him that? Well, he's 5th off the tee in distance. He's 6th off the tee in general strokes gained. He's gained the 2nd most strokes over the last 24 rounds. He plays hard golf courses, the 5th best in the field. He is really good on the putting surfaces on bent grass greens. He's 16th and 11th, which is totally fine. Actually likes himself some bent surfaces. Dominates par 5s, which means he's really good on the long holes. And when it comes to majors and US Opens, the guy's 5th and 6th in strokes gained. So he's just peppering the top 5 there like crazy. He's been crushing it out on the tour this year. 4 wins already. Won the Masters. And, you know, some of his recent last 24 stats are kind of incorporating the RBC Heritage and the Mexico Open, where he had some really rough stretches, you know. I think he's had some rest and relaxation. He's going to be bouncing back this week. In my opinion, he is the best golfer in the field, ahead of Scotty Scheffler a little bit, because I just think that John Rahm, and this is kind of getting into a DFS discussion now too between these two. I don't think I'll be playing Scotty. Although he's 3rd in the model, I don't know if I'm going to be going there, because Scotty has got 2 major deficiencies in his game, which is putting and around the greens, particularly in the sand. And that is not ideal, because if Scotty's main backbone of his game deteriorates for a day or 2, especially in round 1 or 2, he could land up missing the cut if that short game lets him down. It typically is, out of the sand, not the best. He's 134th in sand proximity. We saw him make a par on the final hole to finish T5 instead of 4th at the Byron Nelson after being bunkered on 2 shots. There's a lot of bunkers at this golf course. It's going to be important to get out of them. If you take a look at his recent putting, 111. So if Scotty has a bad putting day or a bad around the green day or both, I'm not sure there's enough ball striking. Like, you can be a really good ball striker, but at the same time, man, oh man, you got to make some putts, man. And it's risky, really risky around this golf course, because if he struggles around the greens, although his major track record is ridiculous, this is a bit of a different course. There's a lot of bunkers, and he's struggled on bent grass greens. So we'll see what he can get up to. If I'm spending big bucks on a golfer, he needs to have multiple avenues of success. Jon Rahm can win this tournament by putting out of his ass. He can win it by chipping out of his ass, by driving out of his ass, and hitting approach shots out of his ass. A lot coming out of Jon Rahm's ass. We saw it happen at the Players when he had diarrhea. So hopefully that's done, and the good stuff starts coming out now, because he's got 4 different strengths to his game that he can really rely on, whereas Scotty is just on the ball striking front. So for me, if I'm picking between the two, Scotty is getting the boot. And at 11-2, at 24% ownership, I'm fading the guy. I think there's other alternatives that will provide me with a similar kind of floor as Scotty. His floor is ridiculous. But if I'm picking a guy to go and win this thing and dominate, Jon Rahm's that guy. I might be very wrong about that, but that's how I'm thinking about it. I was interested in some Rory, but he's kind of pushing some serious ownership there at 16, 17%. You know, the form coming into this week, not the best, but if you think about what Rory does well, the putting, it's kind of hilarious. The 3 of the 4 guys that we're going to speak about first, the top 4 price guys in DFS, are all sitting outside the top 100 in strokes gained over the last 24 rounds. And if you go to their bent stats, 2 of them are also outside the top 100 in strokes gained on bent grass. So the top of the board it's filled with some landmines. These guys on the putting surface of things can get sketchy. But Rory, very, very good on the distance side. He leads the field in distance, crushing it, obviously. Now, the accuracy is kind of a worrisome situation. Whereas Jon Rahm, accuracy off the tee, he's 42nd. He's going to be hitting nukes into the fairway. A lot more than Rory, a lot more than the other guys. Like, if you take a look, and I think what makes Jon Rahm so special, let's sort you by a distance from 1 down to whatever you want to call it. Let's go all the way down to 13, which makes Keith and Scotty Scheffler really impressive. They're very good off the accuracy side of things with the distance. But Jon Rahm's got the 5th best distance in the field, yet he's 42nd in accuracy, whereas everybody else leading up to the 13th most, the longest guy in the field, is all sitting outside 72 or worse, with the majority of them sitting in the hundreds with accuracy. So Jon Rahm has got some serious distance with some serious accuracy. And I think that can't be emphasized enough. The rough is ridiculous this week. You got to avoid it as best you can. You have to. And by the way, your boy, the Model Maniac's got yourselves these white boxes over here are major strokes gained. So strokes gained during majors, off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. And then over here on the right-hand side, we got the amount of rounds that those reflect. So it's going to be interesting. You can definitely see there's some guys I want to use this on to show you how they kind of perform in majors versus normal PGA Tour events. And Jon Rahm off the tee is pretty solid. On approach, a little less, but this is going way back. You know, this goes all the way back to 2017 with a very small sample size. So there is a bit of lag on the stats, but you can just generally see how these guys do. He's very tidy around the greens on major weeks. And then, you know, the putting has been letting him down a little bit in the majors, but he's putting really well right now. So we'll see what he can get up to. I like what he can do. The Jon Rahm ticket is in full effect. You'll be playing a lot of him, most likely 50+% in DFS. We've spoken about him for a good 4 minutes now. We're going to scoot on down the board, giving Scotty Scheffler a miss for that reason, as mentioned. If you take a look at Scotty Scheffler, the upside in 7 tournaments this year so far, 43% of them have been top 10s. Jon Rahm, 67. You know, you take a peek at some other guys like, where's Patrick Cantlay? 38, you know. So Johnny Rahm has just been way the hell inside the top 10 all the time. Now, Scotty Scheffler has been inside the top 20 100% of the time. So all 7 starts have been top 20s, and in fact, they've all been T12s. But because of his short game, he just doesn't have that upside. He's just missing that X factor to get him to win events. Like we saw him gain strokes putting at the Waste Managed Phoenix Open. Since then, it's been a bit of a struggle. So we'll see what he get up to. We're going to be fading him. Rory, we kind of like if that ownership, orange means an ownership dependent play. And I think I kind of like Rory, particularly because this course suits him off the tee. You know, the strokes gained, green regulation rates, all the fairways, blah, blah, blah. Everything's very fancy. He's really good around the greens, in majors, outside of majors. He's fine. You know, the putting on bent grass is really good. It's actually, you know, typically better than what we've seen in the last while. So sign me up for that. I just don't know if he's got his game right now. The guy is reckless. And at 16% ownership, I'm not sure I can go there. I was like kind of hoping it can be closer to 10, but the price decrease that we're seeing at 10.7 doesn't really help. Somebody that I do like in very much particular, and the model not in so much so, Colin Morikawa. He is somebody that sits at 10,300 smackaronis and is 11% owned, and he's 15th in the model, but 4th in strokes gained for majors in general, 5th in strokes gained US Opens and PGA Championships. Now he's won one of them, and he's also won the other. So that's baked in there. I mean, that's going to skew his stats up there a little bit, but he typically plays really well. He's got 26 US Opens and PGA Championships on his record. And if we take a look at what he gets up to, the driving off the tee, 20th in general, 26th in majors, totally fine. Approach play, first, it's tough to be the best approach player in a specific event all the time, but he's first in general and then 8th in strokes gained at majors, which is still fine. You know, that's not a drastic difference. If you take a look at around the green play, in general, strokes gained around the green, 101st. Then you go to major strokes gained around the green, 47th, which is about the top third in the field. You know, so there's a little bit of upside around the greens for Colin in majors, and we'll discuss what's going on there. Putting, strokes gained putting, 90th baseline, all PGA Tour events and majors. Just in majors, 49th. So he's about halving his around the green play when it comes to majors, and that's 26 major events that we recorded there. So it's a decent sample size over a decent period of time, about the last 2 or 3 years. And Colin is just a beast when it comes to stepping up in the big moments at these majors. I think he's a big game hunter. He'll be 10-3. He is not necessarily the longest off the tee. He's 85th, but he's the 6th most accurate driver of the golf ball. He's ridiculously accurate. And I think there is a lot to be said for that. With this kind of rough, if you are 150 yards in the rough, or even like 175 yards in the fairway, I would be curious to ask those PGA professionals which one they would take. And at what point I would probably assume they'd take the one in the fairway. Is 185 too far? Is like 35 yards too much? I still think these guys are ridiculously talented. I think you can generate more spin from 180 yards than you can from 150 out of the rough. So you got to bear that in mind. And we want hyper accurate drivers of the golf ball. If you don't have distance, you don't want to both suck, because then you're going to be hacking it out of the rough from far away. I want to see what Colin can get up to. The major strokes gain stuff is really appealing to me. The ownership at $10,300 is ultra appealing. The minus 150 is a top 40 bet. I was kind of contemplating that. I mean, for Colin at minus 150, if his short game lets him down, his ball striking is still good enough to kind of get him into the top 40 for sure. You know, like this guy's major strokes gain is ridiculous. So love to see what's going on there. I'm all over Colin DFS this week. All over him. All over him. We'll see what he can get up to. You know, the putting's been bad lately, but I really like that angle, and we're going to roll with it. Brooks Koepka, big old beefcake, 10-1, 15% ownership. he's only played 4 rounds, so the strokes gained. So remember, we got live guys in here. Some of these stats, you can see there's bright red boxes everywhere. They are no good for these live guys. The data is just crap. So I haven't taken the time. I've been grinding away. There's going to be some discrepancies here. Like Brooks is not nearly this bad on approach, but we just don't have data. So no data means bad scores. That's just how it goes. It is what it is. At 15% ownership, I'm not going to play Brooks Koepka. I'm going to play Colin Morikawa instead. And, you don't have to hear why. I think if there's a chalky live guy, I'm out. I just don't trust them enough. I don't know what they can do. I don't know where they're going. I don't think they do. So we'll see what can get up to. I think a lot of them played well at Augusta. That's got a lot to do with the fact that they were playing at a golf course that has the highest correlation for course history on tour. A lot of them have played that golf course very well, so there's no surprise they played well there. This golf course requires a completely different skill set off the tee. At Augusta, you can hit it out of the pine needles just fine. You can smoke 3 irons out of there. It's all good. Here, a 3 iron out of the rough could land up going a few feet, depending on the thickness of the rough and where you find yourself. So definitely have to be playing good and in control of your game at this venue. Xander Schauffele, we're in the 9K range, $9,900, fifth in the model. Old X-Man going to give it to you. The guy has been dialed. The long iron approach play for Xander Schauffele is very good. It is scintillatingly good. And you take a peek at all of his stats for strokes gained approach, weighted strokes gained approach, weighted proximity, weighted greenie regulations, good shots, poor shots, all sitting, the majority of them, inside the top 10, inside the top 9. Like, this guy is a baller. Got a little bit of issues out of the rough in greenie regulation rates. That's fine, whatever. But man, oh man, can this guy jam out. And his long irons, we're going to see a lot of them this week. He's going to be balling out. Major championships around the green, he gets better. Major championships putting, he's about the same. He is a decent bent grass putter. A little bit actually better than he tends to do on normal surfaces. So there's a lot to like about Xander. I appreciate his price at $9,900. And if I'm going to eat chalk at 22%, I might try and save $1,300 over Scotty. I feel like Xander and Scotty are very similar, although Xander doesn't have a defunct issue in his game, but might be off the tee a little bit, but that kind of rectified itself last week at 2 weeks ago at the Wells Fargo Championship. We saw him absolutely dial it in, but he doesn't necessarily have ridiculous distance off the tee. He doesn't necessarily the accuracy has been waning over the last while. But he plays majors well. I mean, he's third and third in strokes gained majors and strokes gained US Opens and PGAs. The last 24 rounds, he leads the field, yet he hasn't won a tournament. So his consistency is up there. We saw him get right in the lead with, I think, the back 9 to go, and then kind of just beat down his leg. And I think I'm okay with that at $9,900. He's going to provide you with that comfort zone of knowing that he's going to be pretty much up there. 78% of the time in his last 9 starts, sitting inside the top 20. 3 out of the last ones have been top 10. So, like, the guy's crushing it right now, and good things to come. So you got to know that, but he's going to be chalk city. I don't mind it. There's other guys we can get different with, especially if we're leaving Scotty alone. He's a really good salary saver. But somebody I do like a lot, and so does the model, and we get $200 off Xander's price. We seem like we're going to be getting potentially some ownership discount compared to his best buddy, Xander. Patrick Cantley graded out as the best golfer in my model, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. Now, I tinkered with it a little bit. I changed some settings to a bit more green regulation rates than I had originally, because I had some good shot rates in there, a lot more of those. And as you can see, John Rahm was number 1 in the model when we did that. He's second in the field in weighted good shots, which means gaining over half a stroke on the field on one shot from each different proximity range that we've prorated, showed you the percentages earlier. Half a stroke gained on the field is a good shot. Half a stroke lost is a poor shot. Cantley, his good shot rate is 10th in the field, whereas Johnny's is second. But if you take a look at green regulations, John goes back to 7th and Cantley's sitting at 19th. So that gap kind of got him back closer to the field. But what he does incredibly well is over 200 yards, he absolutely crushes fairways, and he absolutely crushes green regulations from 200 yards too. Really, really solid in that department. And then we get 4 pink boxes in a row, which is very nice, especially when it's at the end of the screen. Third in bent grass putting from 5 to 15 feet. Second in strokes gained putting on bent grass in general. First in bogey avoidance and first in par 5 scoring. Hello, 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 hello. Knock, knock. Patrick Cantley is going to be on that door. He is ready to party. He plays hard golf courses, the 6th best in the field. As you can see, yeah, the majority of these guys up top here are pretty solid on these hard golf courses. These are strokes gained. We'll see what he can get up to. Patrick Cantley off the tee the last little while, 7th in the field. Over the last baseline, he's 4th in the field. The guy is absolutely crushing it. Distance and accuracy, 21st and 18th. That seems like one of the best combinations you can get. If you combine those two together, he beats Jon Rahm even. I think Scotty Scheffler is the only one that gets a lower total between ranking accuracy and distance. So as you can see there, the stuff off the tee is just scintillating for old Cantley. We love to see it. We love to see it. So there's a lot to like. He's $9,700. He's less owned than Xander. And at FanDuel, he's plus 100 to win this tournament. To finish inside the top 20. Sign me up for that. Patrick Cantley finishes inside the top 20, 78% of his 9 starts so far. 63% of them, he's finished inside the top 20. So if you're going to give me plus money odds or even money odds to do something that he's done 63% of the time, sign me up. Yes, the major strokes gained championship stuff is sitting outside the top 20. Not ideal. But I think he's had some really good performances in the majors recently. He's kind of rectifying that myth or trend or stereotype. He's going to be moving in the right direction. Also, to kind of replicate what my buddy Spencer, aka T of Sports, does, my rotoballer colleague and buddy boy that I met out in Vegas, he does this thing where you stack T20s or T40s. If you find a guy that you like, let's go. Cantley is the only top 20 that kicked out. The betting market is in shambles right now. There's just look at these negative odds, just all for top 20. So we can't go there. We kind of always stick around plus money bets. Cantley for a top 10, I think is plus 170, and for a top 5 is plus 350. So I bet my usual unit on a top 20, and then I've bet a third of a unit on a top 10 and a third of a unit on a top 5. So we've got 1.67 units on Cantley. And the better he plays, the more we make. So it'll be really fun to see what he can get up to. I have high hopes for him. I might even use him in one and done this week. I think he'll be a bit of an alternate play. I think he's got fantastic upside. I think if he finds himself in contention, he can win this thing. And if you're going to put yourself into a tournament that's got 20,000 contestants, I don't want a Xander Schauffele that's going to whittle under pressure and finish third. Boom or bust, baby. If Cantley somehow misses the cut or whatever, or finishes 15th, I know that if he's landing up in contention, he's going to most likely show a bit more backbone than Xander's done in the last while. So he's definitely got that upside, that killer mentality a little bit more than Xander. I'm fine going there. So that's Patrick Cantley for you at $9,700, friends. $9,700, the number one guy in the model. That's really interesting with Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm going on. Yeah, the bent grass green putting, so good. Jordan Spieth is very interesting. He's 6% owned, $9,600, and has potentially a wrist injury. He's ranked 10th in the model. There's no, the odds for his top 20 I don't think are available, and I don't even care about them because we are very reserved when it comes to our betting, and I don't want to risk a top 20 bet on Spieth at all, although he has been playing really good golf lately. But when you take a look at what his weighted stuff looks like this year, so this is all since 2023 started, Jordan Spieth does not grayed out from a weighted perspective. So that'll emphasize the bigger buckets that we'll see more shots from. The best ranking he has is out of the rough green in regulations, which is 33rd. Everything else sits between 84th and 33rd. No good. Long iron play is substandard for Jordan Spieth. The good shot rates, the poor shot rates, they all, 44th or 52nd, nothing freaking fantastic. Now, he does play hard golf courses really well. Fourth in the field in strokes gained there. If you take a look at what he gets up to in majors, around the green, he's 22nd. On approach, 32nd, whatever, there's a lot more long irons in majors. If you take a look at his putting, it gets better in the majors. If you take a look at what he gets up to on bent grass, it's better. And, the sand proximity is 27th, but that's peculiar because if you think about Jordan Spieth, he is just lethal out of the bunkers. So if he wasn't injured, his ownership would be much higher, obviously. But I love what he can get up to out of these bunkers. I think he's a really promising prospect out of the bunkers. Keep an eye on his injury. If you can grab a Jordan Spieth at $9,600 and 3% ownership, pop him in like 5% of your lineups. There you have it. Bob's your uncle. You got leverage on the field, and you got a guy that's a crazy good bunker player. We'll see what he can get up to. Really good short game. It's kind of coming in the right direction there. So we'll see what he can get up to. Injury concerns are abound. Tony Finau's $9,500, 18% ownership. He's looking to be, in the same situation as Cantley and Xander, a little cheaper. So you're definitely going to probably see some optimizers throw him in a lot more than the other two. Tony Finau also. Looking at strokes gained approach for the season, he's first. If you're looking at the last year and a half, which is using 30% 2022 stats for approach baseline, he's second, which is still very good behind Colin. Colin's got some good 2022 stats there. Tony has been crushing it on approach. Sixth in the field over the last little while. Looking good there. If you take a look at what Tony gets up to in majors, though, off the tee, 58th, compared to baseline of 17th. On approach, 24th. Currently, he's the second best approach player. That's interesting. Around the greens, take a look at Tony Finau here. 20th around the greens. So the short game shows up in his 34 rounds that he's played so far, or 46, excuse me. And then if you take a look at his putting, the putting in majors is 76th. So not necessarily the best, but he's pretty sharp on the bent grass surfaces from 26th strokes gained, but then from 5 to 15 feet, he's about average, 60th. So there's some interesting things going on with Finau. And at 18%, I know he's playing really well. Again, he's going to provide you with an incredible floor. I don't know if he's going to be able to win. That's the problem for Finau. So 18%, $9,500. I think I'd probably still lean on Xander and Cantley. Feel like they've got a bit more upside than Tony. Although I do like Tony, I don't think he'll find his way into my player pool. I don't think you can roster three guys in the 20% range going into this week in the 9Ks. So that's kind of what my thought process is there. Moving on down, we're going to jump to Justin Thomas. Has been doing some good things. The last 24 rounds, the total has been a little off. The putter has been disgusting. We saw him adopt Aimpoint Express at the Wells Fargo, which is his last tournament, and he pretty much gained strokes putting that week. Yes, it kind of peaked in round 1 and 2 with some longer putts falling, but he wasn't losing a lot of strokes, which has been the case. He's been really bad putting-wise lately, losing strokes, where last week he was just kind of, the bad rounds were minus 0.2 or 0.1, gaining 0.1, minus 0.2, losing, that kind of stuff. So he'll see what he can get up to. He's going to be $9,400, 13% owned. That's kind of in the range where I would like to play Justin Thomas a little bit more, especially sitting beneath Tony Finau there. I think, Tony might still grab and garner a bit more ownership from JT. He's got some good pop off the tee distance-wise. The approach play has kind of dwindled lately, but we'll see what he can get up to. There's a lot to like. His good shot rates, 14th in the field, even when he hasn't been playing well. So his biggest issue is the bad shots. It's the worst shots that sit at 77th in the weighted model here. And that's going to be an issue, because the bad shots are going to put you in the bunkers, and then he's going to have to rely, yes, on his around the green play. That's fourth in the field baseline. In majors, it's 24th, so that's nice to see. Very good out of the sand, 13th in proximity out of the sand. So he's going to be able to escape with a lot more bad shots than most people in the field, but we need to see what he can get up to on bent grass. Now, why I really like the 5 to 15 feet on bent this week is because of the missed greens that these guys are going to see. It's going to be so hard to hit these greens, especially coming out of the stick rough with long irons, and then these bunkers everywhere. It's going to be very difficult to get your ball close because there's high faces on these bunkers. There's a lot of greens that are elevated in the air. The greens are going to be tough to kind of control your ball on out of the bunkers because from what I understand is the steepness and severity of the bunkers won't provide as many uphill lies as you typically find on a normal PGA Tour event. The bigger bunkers provide a much more flat bottom with the potential to have a nice uphill lie. The uphill lies on these bunkers are going to be underneath the cliff face, essentially. The bunker's face is going to be in the way, even though you've got a nice lie. So the good makeable bunker shots are going to be from the basin of the bunkers, which is a lot more difficult to generate spin on. There's your golf course game management situation there. So you got to know that you got to have a really good bunker player in your player pool, unless if he's bad, you got to have a good other traits because this week bunker play is going to be critical, and 5 to 15 feet is going to be the area that the majority of these bunker shots are going to be landing up in. Once you knock it out there, you're not going to be knocking it dead stiff. Tough bunker shots, 5 to 15 feet par putts all day. JT is 27th on bent grass over the last 50 rounds. That's not terrible. He's 50th on bent in general he's 99th in bent putting over the last 50 rounds. Strokes gained total. But from 5 to 15 feet, he's a lot better. The aim point is hoping that might help him with the shorter putts, have less concerns from those ranges. We'll see what he can get up to. I'm going to be playing JT at $9,400. I think he is the defending champion. If he can just find himself 3 or 4 shots out of the lead going into Sunday, that's where JT thrives. Don't want him in the front of the pack. Don't want him missing the cut. But we want him somewhere where he can make a charge, where he can play freely, kind of like what he did in round 4 of the Wells Fargo until he got to the back 9 and then pooped his pants. So he's playing nicely. We'll see what he can get up to. Cam Smith, $9,300, 11% ownership. I just made him 25th in the model. I don't know where the heck he belongs in this thing. I don't know what his game looks like off the tee. Apparently, he's hot garbage. That makes a lot of sense. The math checks out there. The putting, sensational as always. The math checks out there. Take a look at what he's been up to in majors on approach. 37th in the field when he's baseline, according to the model, 7th. We're not going to really get into all of that crap. I think Cam Smith, from a scrambling perspective, if he's going to go between JT and Cameron Young, I think it'll be tough for people to click his name. He's a really good scrambler. He's really good around the greens. He's really good out of the sand. I don't mind him. If we can get a single digits ownership Cam, go, baby. Let's go there. But I don't necessarily think I'll be playing him. I don't know what I just said there. I will come up with it's ownership. If it's 11% right now, I'm out. But if I see it starting to go down like 8%, 7%, then I'm in. I don't know if it gets there or not. Who I will be going to is Cameron Young, who I know exactly what you're kind of getting from him. You are going to be getting a guy that has the third most distance off the tee. You're going to be getting a guy that gains the third most strokes off the tee in his 20 rounds that he's played so far in majors. You're going to be getting a guy that hits weighted good shots inside the top 30. That's fine. The poor shot avoidance, there's some really bad shots in his repertoire that happens. It's not ideal, but he's $9,200. The ownership's starting to creep up on him. He's had 2 really bad tournaments since a T7 at Augusta in the crappy weather. So that's the thing. If there's rain involved, his ball just generates so much speed that water and moisture can really cause some issues for his game. It's going to be raining potentially on the weekend. So I don't know if that's going to affect him that much, but I really like what he can get up to off the tee. I love what his approach play can get up to if it reverts back to its baseline. And he's actually, around the green for old Cam, he is 53rd in sand proximities, which is it's a lot better than everything else that he has. So that's nice to see. He putts better in majors. He's 27th in putting versus 113th this year. Yes, he was playing some really bad golf early on, but you can really see that moving in the right direction at majors. And then, from 5 to 15 feet, 41 in the field on bent grass greens. So we'll see what he can get up to. He's a major guy. He's someone that really suits his golf course. He's priced at $9,200, which is affordable. The ownership seems to be creeping up though. But at 14%, I don't mind him. I don't know. I think Sean McKeel won his first PGA Tour event at this venue in 2003. It was a major. Cam Young, 20 years later, hasn't won a PGA Tour event. Wouldn't that be a cool story? He's got a good chance of doing it if he can get his game together. We'll see what Cam Young can do. Fun little fact there. Victor Hovland, putting around the green, all atrocious. Off the tee, it's worse than his baseline in majors, 24th. Approach play, worse in majors, 36th versus 14th. Around the green, much better in majors versus baseline. 53rd in majors, 154th. He's so bad around the greens, but in majors, he tends to kind of get it together. Similar to Colin Morikawa, not nearly as, it's pretty significant around the greens, but he's really bad out of the rough, out of the sand, sorry. Whereas what I was trying to say is I think where you see a lot of majors, they got thick rough around the greens, which he typically plays better out of. We'll see what he can get up to. I don't know. Out of the sand with that amount of issues, we'll see. Putting in general, 66th, 32nd in majors. So you see a halving there. Like to see, the short game for him and Colin gets ridiculously better. They lose less strokes in majors. They're not necessarily gaining, although Victor's putting kind of gets into the gaining range. Bent putting, 5 to 15 feet. Victor, much better on bent than he is in normal surfaces. So, at 12%, this guy is an elite ball striker, and we can see him navigating this golf course. He's also got really solid, I believe, accuracy. Let's see. My eyes are starting to tell me lies. Check here. Distance 29th, accuracy 21st. There's a lot to like about Victor off the tee. So he provides a beautiful balance that you're looking for. We'll see what he can get up to. I love that bent putting from 5 to 15 feet. I think he's going to have a lot of those, and he makes them. So, kind of at that ownership, I don't mind Victor at all. 9,100 smackaroos. Whereas Sungjae Im, I like old Sungjae. I like him a lot this week, but let's take a peek at his stats. Accuracy off the tee is 11th. That's nice to see. He's been playing good golf, 8th in the field the last 24 rounds. Par 5 scoring, he's 3rd on tour. Love to see that. Dodges bogeys like the Matrix. He's 8th in bogey avoidance rate. Putting on bent grass, 26th in the field. But major putting is a major problem. In his 36 rounds, he's sitting at 115th in strokes gained putting, which is really interesting. Whereas general putting sits around 45th. So I don't know, going on to bent where he's not necessarily that much better or worse. It's the same surface for him essentially. The putting concerns in majors is a bit of an issue. Now, that's a bit more of the most volatile stats of the two. But if you take a peek at his, approach play, all of that, he's just majors in general is 55th. It's one of the worst out of everyone we've addressed so far, which is a bit of a concern. But I think he played quite nicely at Augusta. So we'll see what he can get up to. We will see what he can get up to. Yeah, a lot of his stats are worse at majors. So at 15% ownership, maybe we leave Sungjae alone and kind of go to Victor and Cam Young. Jason Day sits at $8,900. He just won the goddamn Byron Nelson. I don't know. Do people want to get off him after winning, or do you want to get on him because he's playing some good golf? The guy's T20 rate is nuts. Love to see what he's getting up to there. Lots to like. Every part of his game seems pretty consistent right now. I don't think there's a lot to worry about that much for Jason Day. He's pretty solid. Just everything across the board is very good, and we're kind of seeing it all culminating to a point where he could very well start becoming one of the top guys on tour. His consistency's been there, but getting over the mound has been an issue until last week, where he just dominated on approach. So it was not necessarily even the putter that did all the damage. It was the iron play. So you love to see that from Jay Day, and it's moving in the right direction. We'll see what he can get up to. The vertigo stuff is always a concern at 15%, get all that jazz. I don't know. You can make your own decision. I'll keep an eye on ownership. He's definitely in my player pool right now, but maybe cut depending on ownership. Dustin Johnson, $8,800, 13% owned. I've got an itchy nose, which means we're going to be talking about someone who's an outright here shortly. But DJ, I don't know. If he's going to be 13% owned, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, live guys, high ownership. I'm out on DJ despite 7th in strokes gained majors, 4th in US Opens and PGAs. He won last week at the freaking live event. He hit such a bad drive on the final hole of regular play that he almost missed the play. He made the most miraculous birdie to get in there, and then made a long ass. Like, the crazy shit that he got up to was nuts for him to have won that tournament. Cam Smith's putt missed. It wiggled early. It was all sorts of weird. So I don't necessarily know what he's up to at 13% ownership. We're out. Let's talk about this next guy who's 107th in majors strokes gained. Ooh, boy. Max Homa. 50-1 outright is on our card. There are 40-1s out there right now. This is a future. So there's a bit of regret on this bet because things were going very well. He was one of the leading approach players on the PGA Tour when we made this bet at 50-1. He'd just gone toe-to-toe with Jon Rahm at the Genesis. He'd just won the Farmers Insurance Open. He'd just won his second event of the year. The guy was balling out. Surprise, surprise, he leaves the West Coast and things fall apart. I don't know what's got to do with that, but things aren't looking good. If you take a look at off the tee stuff, it's been atrocious. It was a lot better at Wells Fargo last week or 2 weeks ago, which is a glimmer of hope. But everything about his game is going in the wrong direction. We got some solid approach stats, which, if it weren't for his hot start, would actually be a lot worse than they are right now. This is year to date, starting in 2023. So it's a decent period of time, the last 5 months or so. Out of the sand, he's very, very good. Putting in majors, he's just been bad in majors. But I don't think he's the same golfer now. And I think Augusta has his number. If his driver shows up this week, I think everything will start falling into place for Max. He's 11% owned, $8,700. I think between, sitting beneath DJ, you could see a little bit less ownership even there too. Max is a Max, man. He's a boss. So there's a lack of momentum going in. The T8, we would have liked 2 top 10s heading into the week, especially at a course that doesn't necessarily suit his eye like Wells Fargo does. But he's still got what it takes to dominate. When he's in contention, he's a killer. His conversion rate is one of the best on PGA Tour. Like, when he's in the mix, he likes to mix it up and he likes to take it down. So if he finds himself in contention this week, let's go Max Homa. $8,700, 11% owned, 40-1. Let's go, baby. Let's go. If he can just use that springboard of Wells Fargo and kill some stuff, let's do it, buddy. I'm all for it. Next up, $8,600, 8% owned, Hideki Matsuyama. He's way the hell down because his putting sucks. 101st in the field. Everything else not too shabby. You never know what you're going to get from this guy. But I want you to take a look at something that I'm very intrigued about and typically works very much in Hideki's favor. Strokes gained out of the rough over 150 yards, which is going to be a lot of golf shots this week. A lot of golf shots are going to come out of the rough, especially with the way Hideki Matsuyama drives the golf ball. Off the tee, his accuracy is sitting around 53rd. This is Tyrrell Hatton's. Hideki's 55th. Out of the rough, he's 6th in strokes gained. 150 out. Very nice to see. Very, very nice to see. He's got decent distance. It's not the worst. It's kind of gone down a little bit lately, but I think he can step on it. The off the tee stuff is a bit of a concern. That's fine. But he's pretty much elite out of the rough. He's very good out of the rough, and I think he'll be one of the best out of the rough this week. Drink every time I've said out of the rough. I'm so sorry about that. Repeated stuff. But if you take a look at his short game around majors, pretty solid, 14th in the field. Bunker play, 51st in sand proximity, not ideal. And then you get bent grass putting, which is also crap. But he's going to be 8% owned. We'll see what he can get up to. In a major, I don't mind him. Take a gamble on him at $8,600. We'll see what we can do. On the other hand, another guy who's pretty solid out of the long rough is Tyrrell Hatton at $8,500, double the ownership of a decky. I don't know, man. He's really good at putting. He's second in the field. But then you take a peek at bent grass putting from 5 to 15 feet. It's 109th in the field. Not very good. But on bent grass putting over the last 50, all the distances, he's 19th. So do with that what you may. And to me, it means that Tyrrell's going to be making birdie putts on these greens from further away, potentially. But when it comes to having to scramble, I think he's going to have a tough time. Now, he is a very decent bunker player. He's got a very tidy short game. But from 5 to 15 feet on bent grass, where he's going to have a lot of sand saves, he's not necessarily the very best there, friends. So do with what you want with that. I'm out at 15, 16% ownership, even though he grades out really nicely. I'm trying to get rid of my Rainmaker card of him. There's a lot of hype about Tyrrell. Look at this major putting. He's 108th in putting in majors. There's bent grass greens at Augusta. That's one quarter of these metrics. That's 46 events, 46 rounds that he's gained strokes at, and it's 108th in putting. Around the green, 22nd. That's very nice in majors. Off the tee, 62nd. Not bad. Like in majors, he's not necessarily doing what we've expected. Now, I don't know if he's a different golfer now. We'll see what he can get up to, but there's reasons to fade him at 16%, and we will. The same goes for Matty Fitzpatrick, which is going to be really interesting. I'm kind of running late here. We're only in the 8K range, and we're 52 minutes in. But I hope you guys are having a good time. I am. It's the PGA Championship. Maybe we can go a little longer. Try and do an hour every now and then. It's a goddamn major. We can do maybe an hour and 20 minutes. Who knows? But Matt Fitzpatrick, let me have a water sip here. He grades out as the 9th best guy in my model. Off the tee, hard golf courses, all of that stuff. Love to see it. Major golf course scoring on off the tees, 13th. Hard golf course scoring, he's first in the field. Weighted good shot approaches for Matt Fitzpatrick is starting to get up there. He's 23rd. I think that's got a lot to do with the long irons. He's really crap out of the rough. That's interesting. And if you take a look at what he gets up to out of the sand, he chips cack-handed. So his left hand is beneath his right hand as a right-handed golfer. It's basically a left-handed grip, swinging right-handed. I wonder if that's more difficult to do out of the bunker versus chipping off of grass. But for a guy that's this tidy, in 14th around the green, strokes gained, he's 121st in sand proximity. And his bend putting is not the best either. If you take a look at what he gets up to, 5 to 15 feet in general, which is a very reliable putting range. That's one of the more gospelish type of putting stats you can find. It's the most predictable of them all, 5 to 15 feet. Obviously, because it's a very short distance, you're just really good from there or you aren't. But from that distance, he's 13th on PGA Tour all surface. You move that to bent grass greens, and he's 56th. So out of the bunkers, not the best. Bent grass putting, not the best. He's very good at scrambling. Around the green play is solid. His putting is typically solid. But on these two combinations of things that we're going to see a lot of this week, Matthew Fitzpatrick is going to have his work cut out for him. The bogey avoidance is second. It's very, very solid. But I'm not entirely sure I'm willing to go to Matty Fitz at 15% because there's two very important aspects of his game that are lacking. And when there's chalky guys that have issues that I want to poke holes at, we're out. So sign me up for both of these two guys, 85, 84. We're out of these guys. We are going to others. Others like Shane Lowry, whose teeth is open and available to be seen on TV more than a Harry Potter book in the 2000s. His lips are like non-stop open. I'm not entirely sure if he's got some sort of an issue, but it is what it is. Let's take a peek at Shane Lowry's stuff, though. His approach play from the rough is also Very, very good. Second in the field in strokes gained from 150 and out of the rough. Going to see a lot of that. We're going to see him dominate in strokes gained off the tee, 27th. Not too shabby in majors, 29th baseline. He's solid off accuracy off the tee, 15th. So he hits at 31st and he's driving accuracy is 15th. Distance 31st, driving accuracy 15th. Nice stuff there. And then when he is in the rough, he's going to have no problem getting out of it compared to the rest of the field. I think everyone's going to struggle. He's just going to struggle less. Take a look at around the green play. Pretty shoddy in general. 49th around the greens in majors. Sand proximity, 10th in the field. For someone with this bad at chipping and around the green strokes gained, his proximity from sand is 10th. Love to see that. He's a really good bunker player. He struggles putting in general, but in majors, he's 58th compared to his 72nd baseline. So that's nice to see there. His general putting from 5 to 15 feet has been hot garbage. Hot garbage. One of the worst in the field. He's like been disgusting on the putting side of things, as you can see by his 114th ranked putting over the last 24 rounds. That's been crap. But when you get onto bent grass greens, he's 48th from 5 to 15 feet, which is a great combination. Sand save proximities plus a much better putting performance with a guy that's going to be hitting a lot of fairways with very decent distance. And then when he is in the rough, he's capable of getting out of it. So there's a lot of stuff that Shane Lowry does well that really is appealing to me. And so much so that he's 11th in the model at $8,300, 5% owned, and we going to Shane Lowry for a top 40 at plus 135. We may even, is it a top 40 or a top, I think it's a top 40. I'm pretty sure it's a top 40 bet. Let me double check this because this is what we do. But I know we only had one top 20 bet for Shane Lowry. We're going to make sure that we are not talking hot nonsense to you and find a top 40 bet here real quick while we're on air so I'm not lying. I'm pretty sure it's a top 40, friends. We are going to talk about a plus money thing for Shane Lowry. We might even make a top 20 for him too. Shane Lowry plus 135. Hello. Shane Lowry plus 135 for a top 40. That seems very nice to me. He does a top 40 quite regularly on PGA Tour. So I like what we're getting there. He's going to be in DFS lineups. He's going to be on the betting card for a top 40. I love how this golf course suits him. I'm not necessarily a massive fan of Shane Lowry, but this week I am. So that's what's going on there in Shane Lowry's world. We're out on Sam Burns. We cannot have a guy that's got this bad strokes gained around the greens. In majors, but the sand proximity is a bit better. He's a really good putter on all of these surfaces. The putting is going to be very reliant. He putts well in majors. He does in general. The accuracy off the tee for Sam Burns, 123rd in the field. That's not good. The approach play has been waning lately. So we're out. $8,200, we're out. Sahith Theegala, $8,100, 7% owned. 54th in the model. Model does not like Sahith Theegala. And it makes a lot of sense because this guy's game is just, take a trip on the wild side for Sahith Theegala. His recent, US Open and PGA stuff, he's only played in 2 rounds, so he missed 1 cut. That's fine, whatever. He's a top golfer in the world right now. He's top 15 in the world. His recent performances at majors, 23rd now, because he played really nicely at Augusta. He's shown up in a lot of big events, and a lot of it has to do with his scrambling. He's really, really solid when it matters. Like he's chipping in on Sunday afternoons, which is like the most important time to chip in. He's really impressive from there. He's been putting really nicely in majors, at Augusta in particular. The bent grass putting is a bit of a concern. I don't know. The model doesn't like him, but at 7% owned, if you take a look at what Sahith Theegala's been up to the last little while, he's really, 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 really solid. He's got lots of upside, and he just makes things happen. So I'll have him in about 15 to 20% of my lineups for sure. You just never know what this guy gets up to. You just never know what he's going to be getting up to. We'll see what happens. And right beneath him, we like somebody too. Tom Kim. He's 8K, 6%. And Tom Kim is the 3rd most accurate driver of the golf ball in the field. And over his last 8 rounds, has averaged over 302 yards in the last 2 events. So he's picked up a lot of distance. He's sitting at 80th right now, which is distance for the whole year, over the last little while, this guy's been popping. And there's injury concerns about him. He's got KT tape, as always, on his wrists. We don't necessarily know what's going on there. His baseline approach has been really good, has kind of sucked it up in majors on approach there. We'll see what he can get up to this week. There's a lot to like. His green regulation rate from far away is amazing. He's 6% owned. He's 8K. He's a little maestro, this guy. There's a lot of volatility to his game. He's been pursuing distance, which we've seen statistical evidence of, and there has been improvement there. I think he's been gaining strokes off the tee regularly now over the last few events. So his driver is coming along nicely, and if he can dial it in and keep the consistency with a little bit of extra distance at this golf course, he's in good shape. The approach play has been a bit of a concern. Nothing about his game has been consistently there. He surged up the leaderboard on Sunday last week at the Byron Nelson, had a great round, but you don't want to be surging up the leaderboard on a Sunday. You want to be at the top of the leaderboard going into Sunday. So that's his problem. I still like him at 8K, 6%. Let's go. Tommy Fleetwood, 12%. Sorry, can't get there. We're just fading these guys that are high owned. I like Seth. I like Tom Kim. I like myself, like Taylor Moore, Justin Rose, Keegan Bradley. 78, 77, 77, sitting at 75% ownership. Lots to like from those three guys. Adam Scott is one of the worst iron players in the field, and yet he's made like 1 million cuts this year. I don't think he's missed a cut. Just nuts. He's just nuts. He's had back-to-back top 10s, and I think that's going to drive his popularity up. He's pretty solid out of the bunker. He's really good around the greens in majors, but he's going to be in the bunkers a lot. You can't be this bad of an iron player. Going to be reliant on that around the green game far too much. I'm out. You got to be hitting your irons better. That's why he's 37th in the field, even with everything else being that good. Let's talk about Taylor Moore. Let's talk about Justin Rose. Justin Rose, look at the strokes gained in these majors. US Opens, 14th in strokes gained. Majors in general, 18th. The guy crushes it. And he's been playing really well. He's just been floating inside the top 20s. So he's going to be 7% owned, 7.77 in the price range there. 34th in the model. He grades out really nicely. Take a look at what he's been up to on bent grass greens over the last 50 rounds. He's 6th in the field. Take a look at what he's up to out of the sand, 68th, not the best. But he putts insanely well in majors. He gains the 7th most strokes in majors in this field. So that's nice to see, especially on bent grass greens, where it seems like a lot of guys really struggle on bent. A lot of the PGA Tour is played on Bermuda grass, so bent grass greens can really throw guys for a loop. Like Justin Rose a lot this week. Let's talk about Taylor Moore. Putting over the last 24 rounds, 12th, off the tee, 21st, approach, 33rd. He's around the green plays, 122nd. No good there recently. But he's been playing good golf. He just won at the Valspar. His weighted green regulation rates are bonkers. He's second in the field is Taylor Moore. From over 200 yards, he's 7th in the field. So that's nice to see. He's around the green play, sand saves, 82nd, whatever. It's not the best. We've seen his around the green stuff is not the best. It is what it is. And the bent grass putting is also not ideal. But man, oh man, is his iron play very good. And he's got a little bit of distance. He's sitting around normal average there. So he's going to be dominating on the approach side of things. If his putter can bounce back again on these bent greens after playing nicely lately, the putter's been on fire. Let's see what he can get up to. I don't mind Taylor Moore at 5%. Then Keegan Bradley. He's also one of the reasons why we've got the strokes gain majors in here. Off the tee, pretty similar. 33rd in strokes gained compared to his 27th baseline. If you take a look at approach play, it gets a little bit better. 17th in strokes gained approach in majors. Very nice stuff. It's around the green, 65th versus his 84th. So that bounces back a little bit. Then the putting has been very, very bad. Now, bear in mind, this goes back all the way to 2017. We've seen him with the putter get a little bit better. He's 51st in the field right now over the last 4 or 5 months, which is fine. If you take a look at what he's been up to, 82nd over the last 24 rounds, he comes and goes. But I think I like what he can get up to in the majors. He's a ball striking beast. If you take a look at his distance and accuracy, it's 56th and 50th. Not too shabby there. A lot to like. I like what he gets up to with the irons in the majors. And then He's super solid from inside 5 feet, if that means anything. So he's the best in the field. Doesn't miss putts from that range. Ricky Fowler's going to be chalk at $7,600. Wyndham Clark's going to be chalk at 15% at $7,500. Both great inside the top 26 for me, though. So that makes a lot of sense. The math checks out. But I mean, what are we going to be doing here? Like, how many chalky guys are in this range? I think this is the spot to pivot. If you're going to be playing guys that you guarantee yourselves, most likely, like Xander and Collar, or Xander, Scotty, Rahm, if you're going to be playing chalky dudes, you can't be playing these dudes down at the bottom here at like the same percent ownership. This is ridiculous. Now, they have been playing well. Ricky Fowler's major track record is great. He's been playing really good golf. I don't know. Ricky Fowler out of the sand, proximity-wise, 117th. That's not ideal. 94th on putting on bent grass from 5 to 15 feet. So that's a combination that we've been ejecting a lot of guys from our player pool for, and that will be a casualty for Ricky too, despite his great grading outness of the model here. Let's take a look at Wyndham Clark and why his situation is going to be a negative, or maybe we play him. Let's see. Obviously just won the Wells Fargo. This is the next event he'll be teeing it up at. 4th of the tee in distance. So he's got ridiculous yardage. The weighted approach play is just nuts. It's great. Lots of good things to like there from Wyndham Clark. And then you get bent putting, which is 82nd, not too bad. Sand proximity 40th. So if there is someone that we're going to be playing at $7,500 and very chalky, 18th in the model, it's Wyndham Clark. We'll fade Ricky. We'll play a bit of Wyndham. Smart. Don't play him with a whole bunch of other chalk, but we'll play him with Patrick Reed, maybe, with $7,600. And the model for these guys that are from the live situation is not going to be reflective of what's going on. But we do know that around the green and putting, Patrick Reed is one of the best in the world. There's going to be a lot of that being needed to be done this week. I think he's going to be just fine when being asked that question. So I'm going to go to him, 9th in the field, strokes gained around the greens in majors, 31st or 30th in putting at majors. So some solid, points there for Patrick Reed at $7,600, 7%, sorry. Like what he can get up to. Someone that I'm kind of curious about is Abraham Answer. He's going to find himself in the player pool for us at 2%, $7,500, because when he was on the PGA Tour, was the second most accurate driver of the golf ball. This guy, quick water break, yes, sorry. Pretty solid. Accuracy is the second best. So like we said, you want hyper accurate guys if they don't have distance. He is one of them. He made the cut, finished inside the top 40 at the Masters. That's all you can ask for a $7,500 2% guy. I'm fine with that. Give me another result like that. If you take a look at his sand proximities, 44th in the field. So that's from like 2022 when he was still on the PGA Tour a little bit. Or maybe I pulled it in. I wanted to make sure that he had good sand proximity, and it checks out. I like what he can get up to. His last 50 rounds on bent grass has been really good. He putted well at Augusta, which is bent grass. So that makes a lot of sense. I like him. $7,500, 2% owned. I think he's a sneaky play. Then another guy, Cameron Davis, is going to be in the player pool for us, but he's also on the betting card. We have got two guys that I've got in yellow here that I actually wanted to pull up. His opponent is Minwoo Lee, who has been hot garbage over the last little while. And I'm going to pull him up here right now so we can discuss Minwoo Lee, because he is, where is he? Here he is. Cool bananas. Let's do this thing. It's a fun little matchup. We've got Cameron Davis over Minwoo Lee at -108. So if you take a look at these two guys, they rank out. And now Minwoo's only played 5 rounds on the PGA Tour, 6 rounds on the PGA Tour. In those rounds, he's 139th in strokes gained approach over the last while. Go take a look at Minwoo Lee's data golf situation. Big red bars going left on his strokes gained approach. He's got a lot of distance off the tee. That's fine. So does Cam Davis. But he gains hardly any strokes off the tee despite the distance. And the approach play is very bad. It's very bad for him. And it's a concern. The bent putting is also 128th in the field, strokes gained putting on bent, last 50, 140th. So two very important metrics for Minwoo Lee, not ideal. Minus 108 on FanDuel. Sign me up for that. Sign me up for that. We like that matchup this week. We really do. It's two very mediocre players that we're going to be betting on. But Minwoo Lee's missed his last 3 cuts. Cameron Davis has made 3 of his last 4. 2 of those were top 10s, 7th and a 4th, or 7th and a 6th. So some nice things to find out there. I really like them. They price very similarly. So apparently DraftKings and Vegas think they are on the same level. We do not. And we're going to hopefully take advantage of Cameron Davis over Minwoo Lee at minus 108 on FanDuel. 1 full unit there, or to win 1 full unit. Got to pay a bit of the juice. But at minus 108, it's not even minus 110 or minus 115. So that's even nicer. Small victories in life. Sign us up. Keith Mitchell, second best driver of the golf ball in the field. 131st in strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. Out. Gary Woodland, strokes gained total over the last 24 rounds. 28th. Off the tee. 8th. Approach. 14th. Guys, ball striking, beast. General baseline off the tee. 16th. Distance, solid. 9th. Major strokes gained off the tee. 21st. Major strokes gained approach. 16th. Baseline, 16th. Look at these metrics from a weighted strokes gained perspective on the year. I mean, holy cow. Outside of the poor shot avoidance, which is 50th, everything else sits inside the top 24. Apart from his green and or his 150-yard rough shots, which is also whatever. Everything else is amazing. Now, his short game is crap. Putting 150th in the field. Baseline. Go to PGA majors, strokes gained majors, 90th in the field. Around the green, bad in baseline, 117th. Around the green in majors, 85th. So there's promise. Putting from 5 to 15 feet on normal all surfaces, 153rd. On bent, it's 112th. So any improvement from baseline stuff for Gary Woodland on bent grass and at majors in the short game department is what we're going to glom onto. He's going to be 10% owned, but we saw him show up at Augusta. And if you take a look at what he gets up to at these US Open PGA events where it's kind of a ball striker's paradise and kind of just manages the around the green play putting, I like Gary Woodland. He's going to be chalky, but he provides that upside, especially with things getting okay on the strokes gain side on the short game department at majors. Siwoo Kim at $7,100. We're going to be out just because we can't play Gary Woodland and Siwoo Kim at 10% ownership, despite Siwoo being a fantastic bunker player and avoiding bogeys at a really good rate. The putting, I don't know. We're just out on the ownership there. We're going to play other people like these 4 guys. Davis Riley. Go do yourself a favor and pull up Davis Riley's data golf stuff and just filter in on the majors. Holy cow. The guy's got solid distance off the tee. That's Kurt Kitayama. I'm lying to you. But if you take a look at what Davis Riley can get up to, let's take a look at his strokes gained off the tee. 18th in majors. First in approach in majors. And this is 10 rounds. So it's a decent sample size. The guy's ball striking metrics at majors are ridiculous. The putting and around the green play, ridiculously bad. So you get a bit of yin and yang with Davis Riley, but at $7,100, 1% owned, hasn't necessarily been playing the best golf lately. I don't mind a little shot in the dark there with this guy. Let's see what he can get up to. He's a really good ball striker. Apparently, he loves to do it in majors. Kurt Kitayama, massive distance off the tee, massive inaccuracies, but you're going to get some upside there. I don't mind him at a long golf course like this. Chris Kirk and Seamus Powers. We're an hour and 15 minutes in, and we haven't even finished our betting card. But that is the PGA Championship. It's okay. Chris Kirk, plus 200 for a top 40, this week. And Seamus Powers is plus 240 for a top 40. Seamus Powers, we'll talk about first because he's my favorite of the two. If you take a look at his US Open and PGA Championship strokes gained, 13th in the field. It's only been 2, but in those 2, he finished 12th and 9th. Very nice stuff from Seamus. He, in majors, has gained on approach to the 19th degree. He's 19th in the field in strokes gained approach there. And then he gets handy. 29th in putting, strokes gained, and his bogey avoidance is 16th in the field. His bent grass putting is also top 20 in both departments. Love to see that. So there's a lot to like about him. The around the green play, and he doesn't necessarily model out the best, but he scores. And what we've seen is 2 good scores in the last 2 events, 2 top 20s. He's kind of building some momentum going into a nice event like this. I don't mind eating the chalk at 5% for Seamus at the 27th in the model. Sign us up there. And on top of the top 40 at plus 240, we are betting Seamus Powers at 190 to 1 to win this tournament. Who knows? 190 to 1 for a guy that does some solid stuff. You know, like if you take a look at his recent strokes gained, it's hot, mess, garbage city. But he does good things in majors. And he's playing better golf the last 2 rounds. When he plays good golf, he goes on these runs where he's just top 20ing everything. 8 out of 9 events, top 20s. He's done it a few times. Some really impressive stuff. So sign me up for Seamus Powers at minus 190. Then we'll also go to Chris Kirk for a top 40 at plus 200. He's dominated these US PGAs and you know US Opens. In 18 rounds, the guy's major performances is 34th. He's played his 2. This is who? This is Seamus now. Freaking these lines are getting skew on me. Hard golf courses for Chris Kirk. He's 24th in the field. He's really tidy around the greens. Great out of the sand. Great in majors around the greens. Solid bogey avoidance rate. That's all you're looking for a guy that's $7,000 flat in a field like this. Let's go. Both 20th and 27th in the model. Let's see what they can get up to. Scooting on down the board, we're going to wrap it up here shortly, folks. Matt Kuchar. Wow. Matt Kuchar gets up and down out of the bunkers 76% of the time. That's 25% more than the PGA Tour average. That is ridiculous. Matt Kuchar out of the bunkers is getting up and down more than 3/4 of the time, barely, but 3/4 of the time, when the PGA Tour is only doing it half the time. Professional golfers being that much worse. He's 50% better than like the majority of the PGA Tour out of the bunkers. Going to see a lot of bunkers this week. We're going to see a lot of shots out of the bunkers, and Matt Kuchar is going to find himself very comfortable in those situations. Look at this out of the sand, 7th. Out of major strokes gained, 5th. Typically baseline around the green over the last 1.5 seasons. He's 1st in the field. Matt Kuchar is going to scramble his face off. If this tournament lands up being around -5, -8 as the winner, Matt Kuchar is going to find himself sitting at -1, -2. That's what he does. And it's not like we're just fitting him to this golf course. Look at what he's been up to. The last 24 rounds, he's 26th in the field. He's $6,900. He's going to be 5% owned. I'm fine with that. Let's go. Hard golf courses, 21st in the field. He's 29th in accuracy. A lot of decent things there. The approach play comes and goes. It's okay. When you have one of the best around the green player in the field, where he is the best in scrambling out of bunkers, sign me up for that, dude. At a golf course like this, where your scores are going to be very high / not very low under par, Matt Kuchar is your guy. Then we talk about a completely opposite perspective. Is Dean Burmester. Also, very good off the tee. And what I like about him is his distance is massive. And in the majors, the 12 of them that he's played in, he's been 8th around the greens. The putting has been nice at 69th. Very nice there. But just really tidy short game for old Burmy, who's got massive distance. So the approach play is going to be up in the air. We know that about Dean Burmester. There's nothing necessarily indicating that he's going to be an iron god. But the other 3 aspects of his game are pretty solid. The bend putting is a bit of a concern, yes, but around the green and putting in majors have been not too shabby. We'll take our chances on him at 2%, $6,900. Then, shout out to my man, John Daigle, we will be talking about on the BetSpurt show tomorrow. $6,800. 1% owned is Brian Harmon, 31st in the model. Hello. I'm sure he must have fallen just short of a model kick out for a bet at plus 200. But off the tee, he's been doing some great things. He is hyper accurate, 5th in strokes gained or accuracy off the tee for the last year and a half. And by being that accurate, he's 24th off the tee in strokes gained. Baseline. Love to see that. The off the tee stuff in majors is hot garbage, but that's whatever. Around the green play in majors, 33rd. Love to see that. He's apparently got the best proximity out of the sand. So, yeah, let's go there. We're going to see a lot of the sandy plays this week. Pretty solid from 5 to 15 feet on most surfaces, not the best on bent. He avoids bogeys, the 4th best in the field. So, for $6,800, 1% owned, a bogey avoider, a hyper accurate golfer. And if you want to take a peek at what he gets up to, from 150 to 200 yards, he's 58th in strokes in green irregulation rates, which is going to find himself in that proximity a lot from the fairway. Like his rough numbers are not nearly as applicable to everybody else because he's 5th in accuracy. 56th with long irons, which is totally fine. He's very average from that distance. So in the fairway, a long iron is probably better than a medium iron out of the rough. I don't know. Maybe it's the same thing, but he's going to be on a level playing field just because of his accuracy off the tee. So that's what we like about him. Mackenzie Hughes popped at the Byron Nelson and is a very good scrambler. $6,800, no one's going to be playing him. I need to make sure that I haven't missed a few guys. We have got a few guys in the 6K range because if we're going to be playing about 50% John Rahm, we're going to need a few of these guys sprinkled in. And I did skip him because I want to talk about, holy cow, so many people to talk about. This field's massive. It's the PGA. I don't know why I'm rushing. It is what it is. It's going to be a long podcast. But one of the more hyper-accurate drivers of the golf ball, Brendan Todd, 7th in the field in accuracy. The last 24 rounds, around the green and putting, 5th and 10th. So you're going to get a guy that's hyper-accurate off the tee. You're going to avoid a lot of catastrophic situations. There's fairway bunkers that can really cause issues. He's most likely not even going to be able to reach them because he's 155th in distance, but he's 7th in accuracy, which is totally fine. And the reason I added these columns in here, the weighted situation doesn't apply to Brendan Todd because he's going to be a whole proximity bucket less than everybody else. So I took a look at his green irregulation rates from 150 to 200, 80th in the field. That's fine. From 200 and out, which you'll see a lot of this week, 56th. So he's pretty freaking solid. And he hits a lot of weighted good shots. So he's going to be finding himself in the middle of the fairway, nice clean lies, and doing his thing. When you take a look at what he gets up to, a bent green god, 5th in strokes gained from 5 to 15 feet and 8th on bent grass greens in general. So he's got a lot going on for him. He's a bogey avoidance rate of 27th in the field. That's fine. Brendan Todd, $7,300, 1% owned. Let's go there. Emiliano Grillo also. You want to talk about somebody that does some damage on approach. We're talking about Emiliano Grillo now. 13th in the field in strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. In majors, look at this stuff. Look at what this guy does. On approach for Emiliano Grillo in majors, which are 22 rounds. Now, this is going back to like when he was playing majors and good enough to play in them, which is like 2019 era. He's 3rd in strokes gained approach in those majors. So he's 13th in strokes gained approach right now. So he's really hitting his golf ball nicely. We can expect him to step it up in these majors. I think these long iron proximities. Look at this. Green in regulation rates from 200 yards out. He's 4th in the field. Emiliano Grillo, $7,300. We'll see what he can get up to. Out of the sand, he's 56th. You know, his general around the green play is pretty poor. So maybe he's more comfortable out of bunkers. We'll go with that. Then the putting is the putting. But he's $7,200. You're not going to get everything. Plays hard golf courses nicely. Pretty solid off the tee in general. We'll see what he can get up to on approach. Like what he's doing. Christian Bezuidenhout, $7,200 as well. Very good putter recently. And on bent grass, he's one of the better putters on bent for sure. He gained last week at the Byron Nelson in both areas that are popping right now. He's really good. 4th and 4th last 50 and from 5 to 15 feet on bent. His around the green play has seen a bit of a decline, but I have a theory about that. Although you'd like to still see it positive, gaining strokes whenever he does, he is now the 19th best strokes gained approach golfer in the field. Christian Bezaid note. Who would have thought that's ever the case? He's gained a stroke per round on approach since the players. Bezzy, look at his baseline approach play. It's 70th. He's been consistently crushing it on approach since the players. He's changed his coach, and now he can approach. That's what Bezzy's been up to. Putting and approach play. Hello, hello, hello. The accuracy is 25th in the field. That's fine. The distance is lacking, but he's I cannot speak today. 25th in the field in accuracy. That's okay. Especially when you are reasonably good around the greens and a very good bent grass putter and now a very good iron player. So sign us up for Bezzy. Look at this stuff. His poor shot avoidance is fantastic. So he's very conservative, which suits major golf really nicely. He hardly loses over half a stroke on approach. There's only 17 people that lose less in the field. So sign us up for Bezzy. Let's go there. Scooting on down the board, Steven Yeager. Love to play guys that make it into the field in the last minute at $6,700. Everything about his game outside of the putting has been pretty darn good. Love to see all of that stuff, but he's actually, not the best on bent grass, so we'll just avoid that. But man, oh man, has he got everything that you could ask for. The around the green play has been great. The approach play and the off the tee stuff has been really solid for Yeager, especially at the Byron Nelson. Things were trending in the right direction. And he's $6,700 and 2% owned. Padraig Harrington is $6,700. We want to mention him a little bit. His last 24 strokes around the green has been great. He's really good out of the bunkers. Is he? No, he's not. But I don't even know if that makes any sense. His major strokes gained around the greens, second in the field. So we'll see what he can get up to. I don't know. I doubt he's got any PGA Tour stats for the bunker stuff. So the 144 is a lie. I like what he can get up to. He's got distance off the tee too. For the old dog, he's got some distance. He's been showing some pop on the TrackMans. Let's go there. Hayden Buckley is an elite driver of the golf ball. Distance and accuracy combined, $6,600. Joel Damon, elite accuracy off the tee. Elite accuracy off the tee. What can you say about his around the green play? Hot garbage is 89th in the field, but 28th in sand proximity. Let's go, Joel. So, two key areas for Joel are sand proximity and accuracy off the tee. Very nice stuff there. We've seen what he can get up to on approach. He can spike here and there. Played quite nicely at the US Open at Brookline. Maybe this is another opportunity for him to show his skill set with hyper accuracy off the tee. Brendan Steele, not Brendan Todd, Brendan Steele, similar situation. Ball striking beast. We'll deal with all the putting problems later. He's actually putted pretty well in the past in majors. So that's potentially someone that you want to go to at $6,600. And then a few more guys. Holy cow. I don't know if we'll be playing all of them, but see what you can find. I mean, you're going to potentially have to. Nick Taylor. I love what he can get up to. He's just solid across the board. Just everything about his game recently has been nice. He's just a guy that I kind of trust at $6,500. I feel like that's not nearly the price range he should find himself in. He's 59th in the model, is $6,500, So we'll see what he gets up to. Adam Schenk is one or two final guys we want to talk about here. Take a look at what this guy's got up to in majors. 16th in the field in strokes gained majors, only been 8 events. But it's been pretty solid. It surely has been pretty solid. And he does his thing. He's got some yardage off the tee. Very nice there. And then he putts nicely in majors, apparently. And that's what I liked about him. And I think that's what a lot of people liked about him at the Byron Nelson. Look at that bend putting from 5 to 15 feet. It's 11th over the last 50 rounds. So that's what you like to see from a guy that's $6,500, 1% owned, after burning a lot of people last week, myself included. Alex Smalley, hometown hero, 67th in the model. And he is pretty solid off the tee, got some decent distance, and he's tidy out of the sand. Bang, bang. Got two nice things going for him at $6,300. Ches Reavie. This could be a gem. Ches Reavie. If you take a look at what he's been up to in US Opens and PGAs over his 24 rounds, some nice stuff. He's 34th in the field strokes gained there, 4th in the field in accuracy. Ches is hyper accurate. And then you get this major strokes gained approach, 12th. And you take a look at his green regulation rate for a weighted proximity situation, it's 18th in the field. From inside 150 out of the rough, it's 4th. He's not going to see too many of those, but 66th in general from outside 150 from the rough. And then you get yourself, he's tidy around the greens when he gets into majors for some reason. So whatever Ches gets on in majors, you want some of that yourself. So that's what's going on with Ches's life. Jimmy Walker also got some goddamn distance for an old dog, $6,300, playing in like his millionth event in a row. But look at this. The last 24 rounds, he's 41st in the field, $6,300. Kind of fell down the leaderboard the last little while. Hopefully a major. I don't know if he won the US Open or the PGA, but this guy's a major champion. And he's been playing solid golf. So we'll see what he can get up to. And check his bench stats, 24th in the field. So like to see that. That concludes the podcast, folks. I'm drained. That's 90 minutes of golf. Thank you for listening for that long. We kind of got into it all. It is one of the 4 times we can. Really, Mrs. Maniac lets me do 90 minutes plus for majors. Not that she is the boss, but you know what I'm saying. So thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the PGA Championship this week. Enjoy watching. Enjoy tilting. All of this stuff. Go check out rotoballer.com. Use code Maniac for 10% off. And that's it for me. I've got my Breaking 100 article out there. I've got my Rainmakers article out there. I've got my Stat Buffet. That Stat Buffet is really cool. It's the top 20 of everything that you can think of. In this model, you take the filter and you top 20 everybody and just see who keeps popping up in the key metrics. Who's inside the top 20 for sand proximity? Who's inside the top 20 for distance? Who's accuracy? Just things like that. Like you take the top 20%, the top 20 guys for top 20% rates. Because models kick out this, but the actual top 20 rate each guy kicks out for the PGA Tour, that sometimes defies the models for some reason. So those are important things to look at. The PGA Stat Buffet has got all that for you. So go and check it out. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a like on the way out. Give a subscribe if you aren't already. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. It has been a blast. Catch y'all next Monday at 8 Eastern for our Rainmaker Show, me and Draftmaster Flex. And check out all the stuff at Rotoballer, folks. Catch y'all later.